Hi, this is a poorly created video to show you how we can make PPE using minimal equipment. And this is what the end goal is. It's not as pretty as they could buy. I think we can make these for under $1 or something, and we can whip them out in any conditions. So I've kind of set things up here in the most adverse conditions with the lousiest equipment that I could find, and we can see if we're going to actually succeed in this. The concept is that we're making these, and we're making them with materials that are going to stop the spatter and everything, but we don't need to go to the heavy-duty welder's mask, because that's not the situation here. We just want to stop the blowback from getting in people's eyes and whatever else getting on their skin. And so to do that, we could use 3D printers, and certainly some people are doing that at home. That's great. Our method is going to just use what we can find basically in the kitchen or the hobby shop. And so it's going to be created. The general concept is rubber band or a hair tie is better, but this is, as I say, the most adverse, worst situation. This might grab hair, you know. But anyway, so what it is two somewhat springy bands and yet somewhat stiff bands. They look like they're made out of paper towel. Well, they are. But that's okay because they're plasticized, and you can actually, I already did, wash my hands and then just grab this and rub it all over with the soap and water and all that with the plastic off. And so they'll be able to disinfect this and reuse it, or it's so cheap we're going to make more, they can throw it away if that's the best thing to do and move along. So but nonetheless, this is going to protect people in their homes if they have someone they know is or that you know is diseased and has to be isolated, or just for rescue people and anybody that might come in contact, even in the food stores. As far as equipment, you see it here. This is a low temperature hot melt gun. It could be a high temperature, either way works. Any stick you want to use. Razor blade's a little dangerous. I like it, but if you want to use an X-Acto blade or find another way, I recommend you might do that. Yardstick, we're going to need like 16 inches, but you could do that with a 1-foot ruler if you can do the math. And so now, as far as consumables, I hit Staples, and I'm not getting any money for this from them, but I hit them hard. I had like $20 worth of stuff here. So paper clips. This is the standard smooth finish. Gee, I'm looking for a number, but anyway, you can recognize it. Once again, Staples 6. There's 3 per pack. Wedge erasers. If you have used ones, that's fine. The important thing about them is the width. So if you've got old ones that are twisty and all that, might not be so good. Might be worth getting fresh ones. I've got, how many? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so 8 of the long glue sticks. So anyway, saran wrap of some sort. Paper towel. It doesn't matter if it's cut 3/8 or you know, other size perforation. But if you have a choice, don't get one that's got really big perforations. That'll make things a little bit harder, and I'll show you why. What we'll be doing is making somewhat resilient semi-plastic kind of result using paper towel and this, which is sort of the magic goo, but there's others that might work, and I bet if you hit eBay, you'll find something that's almost the same. These are very runny, which is good. They're 2 liquids almost like water that when you mix them turn into a very rigid plastic. And so this in particular is Smooth Cast 300. You mix equal parts, so this is easy. You don't need a scale. But there's also the I think 325 and another one 330 or something. The difference being that one of them cures slower. So if you're more patient than I am, you could get that kind, and instead of curing in 10 minutes, it might cure in a half hour, which is probably good, because you're going to see some of this is time constraint, getting things done before it hardens up. So you consider that before you rush out and get this, although I like this because I like things fast. And what else was there? Yeah, the other version of it, except color better, which doesn't matter in this case. But so that's all from Smooth On. Undoubtedly, there's 17 other craft companies that make this. This is a 2-part pre-polymer, technically speaking, 2-part pre-polymer, very runny. And that's important because we want it to be able to get inside the fibers of the paper towel. And so I just, what do I have here? I only have this to show you if you buy these in bulk or maybe at Home Depot or something, you can get the long ones. You could do it with a whole bunch of the little shorties, but you know, it'll just take a little longer. I got these cups. They're like salsa cups or something, a condiment cup you might find at a restaurant. They're handy as heck. If you want to do it with Dixie cups, that would work too. In fact, that's one thing that's not here. Probably a small Dixie cups. I'll get a little stack of those that will magically appear later in this video. Garbage bag. I'm intentionally on a small table here to show you you don't need any much facilities to do this. Hopefully in your apartment or anything like that, this will work on a counter. If you get boxes, that's nice because that's going to be our raw materials. Well, this is actually to do fixturing. So first step is we're going to cover our fine furniture with something, and I've chosen an excellent plastic garbage bag, which is being nice. It's statically clinging, so that's kind of handy. And so what we need here is a cardboard box with decent ears or any other, you know, and I gotta do like 16 or 18 inches in length. So this is good. This one's 18 and a half. And I'm just gonna, in one way or another, get the ears off without bending them too much. I don't want to twist this too much yet, or anyway. This is going to be the base for making a, and you won't believe this, this is weird, for making a mold that we're going to use to help us form the pieces. And so I'm just laying that there to give you an eye for what that piece of cardboard's plan in life is. Secondarily, we can take off another ear. Let's see. And you're gonna have to like give this guy the bends here so that it is curved. And we're going to tape that, and that's going to be a drying form for one of the bands. And then there's another band, which since we've got the long ear, let's take that long flap. In this case, it doesn't matter. We can be willy-nilly about making it bend because that's what we're going to do with it. And the box has done its thing. Thank you. Call you if we need you. And so, going to soften this up in that direction. Isn't it neat the way they make those boxes easy to do that with? So that's going to be a drying form for the other band. So we're going to need two of slightly different curvatures. Now the next step is getting, these are our size standards. Universal size standard called a rubber eraser. I made a mistake. Wait, there's still another ear on this. We're going to turn this into a cutting template for the paper towels. And the universal standard of width that we're going to use on all this is the rubber eraser from, where is that again? From Staples. And if anybody wants to get dimensional on us, you can go centimeters. These things are 2 centimeters strips is what we're going to be cutting of paper towel. These are, as it happens, exactly 2 centimeter. If we want to get English about it, it's a little bit of a fat 3/4. Okay, a little bit of a fat 3/4 of an inch wide. But it's nice to follow the exact size that these guys are for reasons that may become clear later. So what I'm going to do is mark the corners, kind of the fair split for these guys. You know, this is long enough, I think. I'm going to run that out to the edge very precisely. The last one, I have to graduate to the front of the class and bring it up. And then we're going to do the same thing down at the other end. You know, I can flip it around so it's going to look like I'm doing the exact same thing. But trust me, this is the other end. And so once again, very mathematically precisely putting these marks on the cardboard. Now, why would anybody want to mark cardboard like that? Well, the concept is now we're getting ahead of the mold. We'll do the mold in a second, but since I started on this, let's continue. This hopefully will be a useful cutting guide. We're going to need to make the longest strip, which actually is this inside one, is longer by how much? By an eraser. How shocking. So we're going to need a 14.5-inch span of paper towels, and so we could cheat and use a ruler, and so that's 14.5, and you know, we can eyeball that, or we can use our very precise square here. Doesn't have to be very precise, in other words. And this is going to be raw materials for about maybe 2 or 3 headbands. And so next, this thing lays on the table. This marking device, don't be fooled by the edge. I probably should have put it on the edge, but I didn't. Gives you that. How long is this? Well, I just made it a little bit shorter than what we need. So that's 12.5 inches. And now I'm going to do this. Extend those lines out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is the magic number of the counting that we're going to use, because each of those bands takes 3 strips. And now we can use the square side of that. This is unfortunate in that it leaves a mark on the finished goods, but you can see the pen, in other words. But it makes it a lot easier to cut these things sort of straight. Now, I invite you folks to do a better job than I'm doing, but I think this a good job is one that, you know, gets these things in the hands of people that needs it. As many as we can, as quick as we can. So you may see that reflected in my zippy, quick methods. So now, despite the fact that we may have a little wind, we're going to bore you to death by cutting these. So this is a good job if you have a youngster or someone who can have the patience to cut these strips. Or maybe someone can come up with a smarter way. I tried a paper cutter. I found it fairly difficult. Mine was rather dull. Maybe you've got a fresh paper cutter and this would work, but because it's a long piece, it doesn't work out on an average paper cutter. This is where we need the time-lapse photography, perhaps. You can also do it with the razor blade against a hard surface, or not really hard, but like a cutting board or something. That works. You can use a straight edge and not use the pen to mark it. That works. And it works. So there, we've got our 6. We're going to put this away for later. And I'm going to keep the wind from blowing these away that way. I need to get my 14.5 inch plan going. So these are corrugated, so that's kind of nice. You don't have to worry about getting the lines straight. And we'll start with one of those. And so what's going to happen is these things are not perfectly straight. That's okay. So we're going to use glue sticks to glue sticks, which is kind of a interesting concept. You can put a dot down and stick it there on the line. Doesn't matter where this is going, because we have you just want to follow a line, and you can be on the line or next to the line, doesn't matter. And then this last one is got to be shortened. That's where we get into the razor blade department, or any other way you want to try to do that. You notice I went a little bit past the line I need. I'm going to go a little bit past the line I need. Move it off of my, well, maybe I'll put it back and save the table. Don't get yourself hurt doing this. The concept is to free up time and material of the EMT squad, and they're not freed up if they're reattaching your finger. So take that into consideration. If not for yourself, then to minimize the need to hospitalize you. Some safety. So next we can put our universal spacer devices, known as rubber erasers, down like that. They're not trying to be glued in, they're just butted up against the other side there. And now snugly, you know, see how I'm kind of like give them a little bit of force. I'm tacking this guy down next to the first, well, next to the eraser there. And here we have to wait for hours. There we go, that's dry. This is too short, it's time for another piece. Kind of squish this thing in there. The resilience of the hot melt glue and the erasers is a good thing. It kind of holds things together later on, as you'll see. So they go in and they don't wiggle, but they don't. You could use a little more snugness than that. I don't know if I can push this guy in. Okay, that's hopefully going to stay about right. And then I need a little bit to close off the ends. That's reasonable. That's very reasonable. So now I'm gonna, oops, I need this for to push that down. Get that guy in there. This does not have to be watertight. You say, oh, the juice is gonna leak out. Doesn't matter. We're gonna use saran wrap. So these guys can be, they will be reused in many different ways. Liberated from that. And then I can make the next one pretty darn close to the first one. Same exact way. I'm going to run out of this hot melt glue, and then you're going to wonder, why did he change to a different hot gun? Because I don't have any more of this size stick. But I just wanted to show you at least that you don't have to use any high temperature or anything like that. For this part, you don't even need it for the later part. Let me show you something. There's hot melt glue in there. It still takes hot water washing. If it's too hot for your hands to wash, then maybe it would start to melt, but at the temperature that you can still comfortably wash it. So I wouldn't necessarily think you can put it in a stew pot and boil it clean, but you don't need to. Coronavirus is easy to knock out just with a little bit of soap, and so we're going to figure that if we wash our hands very well, take another 5 seconds and rub down our PPE, it should be just as good to go as ever. First one of the second mold. Now I use my width standard erasers and lay in the second piece. I'm only outside because the light is better here and you don't see all the junk behind me in the workshop. This way you only see the junk behind me in the front yard. And the light is better. Maybe something should be said. This, what does this say? It's got methyl stuff in it, so these are not, you know, to be licked, but they're also, they're not smelly or anything like that, but it's got methyl something in it. So in California that can make you very ill. So you should, yeah, doing it outside is great, but not necessary at all. I can't smell it, and it doesn't, you're not going to bathe in it. You're going to be using basically eyedropperfuls of it at a time. If you're quarantined with somebody, it might be a fun thing to do with the family, roommate, whatever, that maybe you haven't done before. And the concept being that I'm trying to do these faster, cheaper than 3D printing, which is another way of doing this. Or of course, if you happen to have access to a plastic molding machine, you could probably hit a button and get 5,000 of them, but there's supply chain problems, because I was originally going to make these with my 3D printer, but then when I started calling around for materials, I found that I was frozen out. So I couldn't get what I needed. So I came up with this, which is an entirely different way and not in competition with anybody else's methods until this video goes viral, in which case you're on your own, people. Get some lines on here. So we need, let me see, I'll go from the inside to the inside, but I'm just gonna move it so the 14 is in the middle. So there's a little bit here, a 1/4 inch on each end. So that means that 7 is the center, and I'm gonna go 1.5 inches. So this is just the center, and so he basically, we're not going to use him, but that's just to help us reference everything. So this is 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches, and then out here, so where are we from the center? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inches from the center, we make a mark. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 inches from the center, we make a mark. So don't forget, this one is a throwaway. And what that's for, excuse me, is the anatomy of a paper clip is that there's one end that has 2 little sticks, like little orphans down here. They need to get grabbed in, if it's this brand and size of paper clip, which I think is fairly standard, need to get grabbed by the thing so that when you bend it, yeah, you want to bend it, you're going to wind up with little baby bends there. The only reason for that is that that's the same size when you do it that way with this brand and that brand, as to get these guys the same width as our standard staples erasers. And we can do that 6, no, we need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is the number of the counting in so many ways that if you're jibber jabbering making a video and you can't count to 6 because you need 2 hands to do that, you can use the erasers to get yourself to 6 kind of reliably if you just use them as holders. And they look very nice that way. And if you're doing this with someone else, that's also a quick way to wordlessly get the message out that, yeah, I've got my 6 done, you know, or they look over and say, oh shoot, you still need help here? Okay, fine. So by doing that, we can jib jabber and not lose count. 4 of these are going to get used on, oops, so yeah, the open end side. It's harder, it's true, but we're tough people to bend it. I don't like that one. There are extra paper clips in the sea. So anyway, as I was saying, it's a little bit harder. Obviously I'm bending 4 wires instead of 2, but it's worth it because it allows me to fit the next step better. And so what's going to happen is saran wrap makes its appearance. And unfortunately it's not wide enough to go this way, so it has to go this way. I don't know if they make it wider. Seems a little more cooler than you need, but so the nice thing about doing it this way at the approximate dimensions I've done, so those are laying in there, and you can see something. I'm going to not lose my little 6 friends here, hopefully, but I'm going to steal these guys to show you. So this packs that down. You don't have to be airtight about it, but you can use these, and there's a certain amount of snugging that is natural. It happens with the glue sticks and the saran wrap, and so they're kind of nice. It's not perfect, but it beats trying to get a $15,000 plastic molding machine doing what we want. Now I've placed the saran wrap on purpose. It's actually, yeah, saran wrap, so that I've got enough to fold over on both sides, and we're actually going to do that. First of all, they get 1 layer down. Now this could be cotton, and it could be Mickey Mouse, or it could be whatever, which might be nice because it's going to be visible, but white is good too. It's reassuring in a clinical sense, and but maybe Mickey Mouse would be reassuring in another sense, and that's good too. Or flowers, or butterflies. So what I'm doing is I'm using the paper clip almost for what it was intended for. It's clipping paper and getting it. These are the straps that are going to hold the elastic in the back of the head. And so doing this in a windstorm too, so you should be able to do this in the privacy of your kitchen a whole lot better if I can do this. Let's see. So that's there. It's got a little wrinkle. It's okay. So what I did there apparently is I made the mold like 14.4 and this is cut 14.5, and so it's just a little bit pudgy. That's okay. We're going to next lay one more. So there was one bare one, there's one with 2 clips, and then there's another bare one. I'm making a sandwich. That's what's happening. And just so the wind doesn't get it, let's get 3 of these and take off an eraser's worth of length. Yes, erasers, not only are they the standard of width, but they are also universal standard of length. So this gets centered, I'm eyeball centered. This might be wise if you want to put lines, that's fine. But using the latest in eyebolometric technology, we are locating that in the center. Now, going to lay this down and do marks for where the clips are going. Clips are going? Yep, they're going. Right on there. And so now these were end to end, these clips. They went, you saw them laying in there like that. These guys go in the other way. And so once again, I like to put the big one because that lets me push this down while I like make the little part come up. You can't bend these wrong as long as you did roughly what I said. You know, it's like one side or the other, doesn't matter. And we get to do that 4 times. We got birdies singing. If you listen close, there's actually a babbling brook in the background too. We're pretty lucky that way. There's also a babbling technician in front of you. You're not lucky at all. But we're all on the same team trying to get this done. So, you know, this is a little delicate, but if you open up that paper clip, you can get it to clip non-destructively to a paper towel under these conditions of extreme need. So, and then the last one to go over. So it's the same sandwich concept. A clean one, a clipped one, a clean one. And once again, just to, so the birds don't think this is nesting material, we're going to temporarily just kind of hold them in place. So I'm going to get the magically appearing Dixie cups, 3-ounce ties. That works. You can use the same cup over and over once the juice in there hardens. I'll show you that. And you need any sort of stick. One of the other things I do with my nasty single edge razor is you can break off the white plastic that's there from the last time I used it. If anybody was smart, they might consider doing this wiping down thing. You might have gloves on, that would probably be good, and I'm probably going to get 100 comments about why you're doing that without PPE while you're making PPE, but this is life in wartime. And also I'm irresponsible and bad. So, as I said, I'm using salsa cups, but anything you can find, and I'm able to reuse these. So as long as you can, I like to be able to see through them. We're not going to stir in these. We're going to measure out in these and dump into there, go up to Mama Shark, pour one of them, then do it again and pour. That's what I'm calling my shot. That's what I'm going to intend to do. What I've brilliantly done is this says stir well before using. So off camera and prior to this, shake them up before you open them. And then I just do a single hole in each. Oh, I have a pen. I'm going to label one of these B. Badly. I had a Sharpie would work better. But anyway, so that has B because that's going to be the B material. One is a little more runny than the other. One is like water. The other one is kind of like honey water. And so I've done the puncture top with both of them. They're both basically stirred, so don't worry too much. Even if you forgot to stir it, honestly, I don't think it matters a ton for what we're doing. And I've got a clock with me here. So we can kind of see the elapsed time situation. As I said, this is very speedy cure stuff, and so that kind of means that watching the clock matters a little bit. So I'm going to try to get this to, on these things, shoot, I'll check the grammage and get back to you on how much ounces that is. But in this little salsa cup, just about the halfway point. Did I do it in the right one? Yes. Part B is in the one labeled Part B. And then this one is going Part A. This is actually, so a little confusing. The thing about this one is a weak Coca-Cola. It's got a little color to it, and that's the A, so yellow is yellow. As I say, if you find this on YouTube or on eBay, you may find some other equivalent brands. That'd be fine. It's nice about this one is that it can tell the two are different. The B is the clearer, and it's actually a little bit more thick. The A part is yellowy like the bottle, and it's runny as heck. So the slowest one to move is the one I'm going to put in here first, because that gives me the time. I can take all day doing this, emptying this thing out. Of course I don't want to because there's PPE to be made. And now I'm gonna plan my attack. I'm gonna put that in there, stir it to the count of Mama Shark, and pour as quickly as I can on here, pat it down, make sure that there's plenty of juice in the two ends because that has to anchor these guys, and then you see the rest. I'm going to pack it over, and then we get this guy in, and we go baby shark, 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 baby shark, 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 baby shark, 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 baby shark. Mama shark, 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 mama shark, 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 mama shark, 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 mama shark. We're done. Because you don't want to go longer than that, because this particular material I'm using will harden up. I got the ends first. Pour it all out. You see what I'm saying? Well, we didn't need to make the thing watertight because of the saran wrap trick. Now the saran wrap trick is going to help us in another way, as I said, a fold over. So we gently fold this over, brilliantly wipe this down so we don't have to scrape it off as I did the last time. Put the eraser to push that thing down so that we don't have fluffies and loose things like this trying to hold down our eraser, which wouldn't work. So I'm going to put the downside of the eraser there. Oh, it juices up. It's okay. We can break that off. It's not the best thing. You'll do the best thing. I'm doing the second best. So I can see that's very well impregnated. I don't really want to leave, and you can like bother it like this with an eraser to try to make sure that it really is everywhere. It looks like it is. You can see how it's kind of see-through-y right now. This is white, this is kind of see-through-y because it's wet, right? But the neat thing is, as it hardens, it tells you it's hardened by turning white again. So that's that one. We can save time. We don't need this. We won't need these guys in here for very much longer. While that's stewing, we can go back to the one that says B, because if I put the A in there, it would start to harden and ruin my life quite substantially. So you might find a better way to pour these, but they just love to run all over the place and make a big sticky mess. This hole in the top trick works for me. And so I like the translucent sides here because I can see my levels. If you're using bottle caps or something, you won't get that, and it's going to be maybe harder, might be easier to gauge the to gauge the height, because you want about equal quantities. And why I was bothering the this thing while it was curing here is because I don't want to leave any fibers like that. That'd be miserable. They couldn't clean that, and it will you know, potentially hold germs and stuff if it's still fibery. But if it's impregnated with plastic, life is good. So I'm going to steal these away, they've done their job. They've got it started. As long as I'm sort of gentle, it'll be fine. And now we're going to do the same sharks again. Or we can go on to the next part of the song, whatever you like. So the B is the gummier one on this one. So I'm gonna, now this is gonna start to harden in there. So this, you don't have quite as much time. You'll see that after making 2 headbands, this is gonna have plenty of time to harden up before I do it again. Here goes. All right, baby shark, 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 shark. See the spinning? Do 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 do. Mama shark, 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 shark. Mama shark, shark, shark. Mama shark, 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 shark. Mama shark. We're done. So we want to really get where we're anchoring first. They get priority, and then fill in the rest. Yeah, it's going to run past the edge a little. There's a trick about that later, but if you just get it mostly on the, and then wisely wipe the extra goo. And so now I'm going to pack these guys like that. Now you gotta give a little more leeway because you're going over the staples. Paper clips. See what I did there? A little tuck at the end stops it from going too far. And now we've got 1, I'm upsetting that guy a little bit, 2, 3, 4. So those are held hopefully in place. I'm going to go back now that I have the luxury of time a little and really jam it in. Hope it's getting to the end. It won't kill anybody if we have some to cut off at the end that didn't get juiced, but I think it's working okay. So that's good. Now you see what's happening here. It's starting to turn whiter, and that's a good thing. We don't want to move it until it's uniformly just gotten white. I wasn't looking at the clock. We can go back to the tape and see when that happened, when we poured it versus when it got all white. About these guys. This might be a fortuitous time to take this out, and I'm going to unsnap this, and this is what the healthcare worker can do too, is just like change these out if the last patient was a mess, and then you have another one of these ready to go, or you can just rinse this underwater, it'll be fine. So you can use one to cut the next. I'll try to post a pattern or something, but this is, let's do it this way. So there's an open end and a sealed end. We want the sealed end to get gone. That sealed end and that sealed end have to be this way, and the top is the opening part. And the nice thing about using such light gauge and easy materials, well, this is one brand of page protector. I didn't buy this one recently, so this may not look like this anymore in the store. Don't kill yourself. But diamond clear is nice. You know, if you have a clear kind, if you have one that says, oh, it's so strong it can take a hurricane, it might not be very clear, and you don't really need it that strong. So I'm kind of favoring, you know, if you can find one that's clear, you know, as a user, I think I'd like that. So that's my assumption. So I'm cutting this pretty basic. Let's give you a hand pattern so you don't have to be spending the weekend trying to download this. There. So if I'm 5'9½", so if your hands are something like that, and you put your palm down in the middle, and if you know that you got a smaller hand, leave that extra length. If you know you're a monster, then you figure it appropriately. But this will give you a clue that your average technician here is about that big. And so what we've done now is created a mimic of the first pattern. You can just do it by hand if you want, or once you've made one, you're good to go. So that opens up, that's nice. Gonna put this on my multi-purpose, but I'm just guesstimating this. If you want to make it exact, it's exactly that width of a rubber eraser. I keep calling rubber. An eraser. And so I centered the center line conveniently there, and just kind of like poking there. So that essentially marks both sides at once and symmetrically at the same time to boot. Now this is the cheap one I just bought from Staples. There was another one for $1 more. I wish in hindsight I had gotten that one, because this one leaves the hanging chads. And I can't verify, but maybe if I'd spent the extra money, we wouldn't be talking about hanging chads right now. But the good news is, I wanted this to be as MacGyver friendly, as low cost as possible. So, and we don't have access to coconuts, so we couldn't do it the way they do it on Gilligan's Island, but pretty close to no high-tech equipment or materials needed. So you shouldn't see a big run on Staples to buy these materials, whereas if you try to buy polycarbonate sheet or anything else to make these out of that, good luck to you, because it's all been sequestered by the... Oh, look at this. This has turned white on us. So what we're going to do, and this one also has turned white. They're still flexible in this condition. They're warm, which is kind of neat. The chemistry of it is that they put out a little heat while they're curing. Going to need to separate these, and now's a good time to separate these. They don't adhere much at all to the saran wrap. While this one could take another second. They don't adhere to the saran wrap while they're in this state very much at all. And they're not liquid either. There's someplace in the middle. So this is the long one, is that we need to have the loopy on the outside of the bend. It would be convenient as heck to do it this way, but that won't work. So we're going to put him on there, and I'm going to brilliantly, after the fact, cut this down so that the little loopies can rest over the tops. And then this needs to be babied into submission to have a nice curvature. And so let that carry. That's probably okay like that. So you saw that the little hooks are going out. This one here also has the hooks going out, and so it's gonna peek over the edge. The overall length of this is really cool, but yeah, once again, now this needs to be a little tighter radius. We could probably live with doing that and kind of split the difference. What I intended to do but didn't is put a piece of tape across there to hold these in this position. These have stiffened up nicely. Not the best shape, but with a little more care they could be more round, but that's okay. It's a pretty forgiving design, so that should work out fine anyway. And this is the other pieces. They're looking pretty good. So what you saw me doing in fast motion was cleaning up a little bit of sprues, little leftover bits of plastic that might be, you know, making not look so hot. But so what we need to do is take an insider and an outside, and you can't do it wrong. There's no wrong way to do it. I'm going to use a universal spacer and a clothespin to get me the positioning of the one relative to the other. You could do it another way, but this is an easy thing. They're laying around anyway. And so now one of these pieces goes on. Try that one. Like that, it's going to go. So, I'm going to use, this fell on the ground, it got messy. We're going to use the hot melt to put like a 1-inch square, pretty thick hot melt. It stays warm for a long time, so don't worry about rushing. You don't have to rush this much. And try to keep these in line for a little while as that first side hardens. Doody-doody-doo. It's kind of in place. And then let's do it again. So about go for 1 inch and put a good glob on there and squish those. So now we have a smiley face. And we should, because we're now done as soon as that hardens up a little bit, so I can show you. Yeah, they're both gooey. Hot melt takes minutes. Well, seconds. It feels like minutes. And so these were only just to give us placement help, and their job is done. And that's about there. I put away the rubber band, but what you can see is I had the fast motion portion of the program pop those holes, and those fit onto the paper clips. Please. And now the paper clips can be bent up. Mostly always works. Now if it doesn't 100%, I think we might suggest a little bit of adhesive tape, just to keep them on the thing. And now that's ready to rock. And now this is the stylish look of the season. Thanks. Let's cook them. Let's make them.